Yeah, it looked like Jenson Button that just gave Alonso a little bit of a tap on the way through, but very gentle. I can't believe it caused any damage. Alonso then now on the tail of Nick Heidfeld, the 6th place BMW. These soft tyres are working well in the early stages for Alonso. He has got a car which is a good half a second a lap faster, of course, than the cars he's trying to pass at the moment. But
he's in a good position there, James. Just picking up the slipstream. Heidfeld has gone defensive, but super late on the brakes. Wow, that'll have surprised Alonso. He was shaping up for an outbreak and actually lost ground in the braking area.
Well, there are 2 places to overtake here. The Adelaide hairpin, where we've just been through, and the Lycée corner, the last corner on the circuit. Both heavy braking zones. Alonso taking a good look into turn 8 at Heidfeld. Basically, it's a run around hairpins through 2 fast chicanes to more hairpins this racetrack.
Massa driving beautifully out front, and he is already over 2 seconds ahead of his teammate Raikkonen, and Louise has found Anthony Davidson.
Anthony, tell us your side of that story.
Well, I got quite a bad start, and just following the train going into turn 1, and it was pretty slippery out there. Lots of people braked a bit early, and I just locked up both front wheels. As Lutzi got pushed out wide, he had to try and slow the car down as much as he could. And I just gently tapped him. He'd got a bit of a slide going on. I went round the outside of him, and then he spun right round and just collected the back of me. And it was pretty low grip out there, so it was hard for everyone. But just a racing incident.
Cheers, Dan.
A little bit of a lock-up for Felipe Massa, the race leader, trying to get away from Kimi Raikkonen. The gap now 2 seconds. It's interesting, though, Martin. The BMW seems to have very good grip through turn 3, doesn't it?
Yep, good under braking into the Adelaide hairpin. Much slower in this part of the track where Alonso fancies shaping up, but there's usually nowhere to get your nose inside of the other car. You can make ground on him, as he has done, but you're always going to end up losing the nose of the car. Alonso P7 at the moment. Massa's lead up to 2.2 seconds. We're on lap 5. Hamilton tucked up behind the other Ferrari of Raikkonen.
Alonso, little lock up there from Heidfeld. That should give Alonso his chance.
He'll have a chance down into Lycée, surely, although he hasn't really got out of that corner as well as I expected. Now he's in the sweet spot, and beautifully done. Heidfeld, he's gone deep. He's gone deep. He should be able to. Oh no, Heidfeld just came back and closed off the door. So Alonso went in. He really tried to overtake him twice there, passed him down the hill, and then outbraked himself. But good head there from Heidfeld, and Alonso just super aggressive, knows he needs to get on, but did not punish Heidfeld properly for the mistake he made at Chateau d'Eau, and that may well cost him badly later on in this Grand Prix.
Well, he certainly took a few chances, didn't he? He was almost 2 wheels on the grass down the inside to the Lycée corner, and we've seen a few risky overtakes this year already from Fernando Alonso, particularly off the start line, if you think back to Barcelona, where it didn't work out for him. And also in Montreal. Here he's into the part of the circuit where he's quicker than the BMW driver. Can he force Heidfeld into some kind of mistake here?
Heidfeld could be on a much longer fuel strategy. There's Alonso. It's very dirty where he came in. Just couldn't slow it down properly, and Heidfeld says, I'll have that back, thank you. And that could be critical for Alonso. To be fair to Heidfeld, he gave him a car's width, and super brave from Fernando Alonso, took it, but then couldn't hang on to it when he got there. Good camera work.
Great camera work. Close again. This final part of the lap, but not close enough. And of course, Alonso's soft tyres will start to drop off a little bit in performance for a while. And he needed to capitalise early on and make as many positions as he could. He started 10th. He's now in 7th place. So he's made up 3. So too has Jenson Button, who started 12th and is now in 9th. Massa leads on lap 7. Almost 3 seconds now the margin from Raikkonen. Hamilton is 3rd. Kubica 4th, exactly where he started. Fisichella is 5th. Heidfeld is 6th with Alonso right behind him. And Rosberg in 8th place. The main casualty, Heikki Kovalainen, who started this Grand Prix in 6th place and had contact at the start with Jarno Trulli, and he has now dropped down to 19th. There is Tonio Liuzzi. He's also out after colliding with Anthony Davidson at the start line as well.
Yeah, I think Anthony has to take the blame for that one. Pretty sure he does indeed. Shame for Kovalainen. Apparently his power steering had a fairly fundamental problem in qualifying 2 and 3 yesterday. So he's driving, having to push the car one way with the steering wheel down the straights. So did a good job to get the grid position that he had. Didn't get too far with it in the race, sadly. Massa, a new fastest lap of the race, a 1:16.9, a 10th ahead of Raikkonen on a 17.0, and Hamilton a quarter of a second adrift. McLaren better hope they're longer fueled than Ferrari.
Well, they set virtually identical lap times yesterday, Massa and Hamilton. Of course, with this updated Ferrari package, it's hard to guess how well matched the two cars are, and therefore how much what the fuel difference might be. But certainly this is bearing out what we saw in free practice, where the Ferraris were more consistent on the longer runs, race trim, than the McLaren, and they were particularly more consistent on the softer tyre, which you'll see later on in the race. Alonso using it at the moment, still trying to get past Heidfeld.
Yeah, this is hurting Alonso. He's now 16 seconds off the lead. That was absolutely critical that he needed to get past Heidfeld. There's a 4-second gap in front of Heidfeld to Fisichella, and you would have assumed Alonso would have been steaming up close behind him. There are two different lines around there. You look slow in the middle as Heidfeld did, but it gives you a much better launch out of the corner, and that's put Alonso some 30-40 metres behind. He's quicker into this Chateau d'Eau braking zone, and this is where Heidfeld made the mistake, and Alonso failed really to capitalise on that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with the BMW's acceleration though out of the slow corners. It picks up and gets away from Alonso, and he has to rethink his plans. Ted Kravitz, what can you tell us?
Yeah, and a few long faces down at McLaren, because they realise that Fernando Alonso has now lost all the benefit of those new soft tyres, and even worse, they're starting to drain. The lap times are not good if you consider that actually Fernando and Lewis are on very similar strategies. Lewis doing, well, what's he doing? Is 17, low 17, and Fernando now very high 17, almost a second difference. And as you say, it's really killing Alonso, this.
Yeah, it's damaging his progress, no doubt about it. The only good news is he'll then have the two sets of better tyres to finish the Grand Prix, and he may be able to capitalise then a little bit later on. But as you say, they go through a graining phase. The surface of the tyre sort of goes into little tiny balls like marbles. And at the moment, though, he's still got a good front end on it. He just can't get the BMW away from its front end. That's the problem.
Yeah, he's getting plenty of grip at the moment, that's for sure. We saw that turn 8 where he gets very, very close to Heidfeld. This morning in the GP2 race, Bruno Senna had an accident there with Kazuki Nakajima, the Williams test driver, trying to go up the inside through there. It's a risky place to pass. So this is lap 10 of the French Grand Prix. Felipe Massa has just set the fastest lap of the race, a 1:16.5, as he pulls away from Kimi Raikkonen, his teammate, in second place for Ferrari. Third is the McLaren of Lewis Hamilton. Fourth, Kubica. Fifth, Fisichella. Sixth, Heidfeld. Seventh, Alonso. And eighth, Nico Rosberg. Outside the top 10 then, Rubens Barrichello in 10th place as Alonso takes another look at Heidfeld into the Adelaide hairpin. Ralf Schumacher is running along in 11th, 12th Mark Webber, 13th David Coulthard. That's an improvement on his grid position. Alex Wurz has moved forward 4 places as well. He's in 14th. Takuma Sato, Scott Speed, Christian Albers and Adrian Sutil, the only cars still running at the moment. Well, it's clear from this that Heidfeld on the harder tyres is not dropping Alonso on the softer tyres. So Alonso getting good performance here. Just needs to get past him though. Their lap times in the high 1:17s, over a second a lap slower than the race leaders. Hamilton's picking up his pace as well now. He's just set his fastest lap of the race so far. There is Fisichella. And here is the battle between Heidfeld and Alonso. They're dropping Nico Rosberg a little bit now. It's been a great start by Takuma Sato, presumably taking advantage of the chaos into the Adelaide hairpin on the first lap. But he's managed to get himself in front of Scott Speed, which, considering that Sato started at the very back of the grid and Speed started in 15th place, is quite a change.
Quite a queue forming up behind Barrichello. Ralf Schumacher 11th, Webber 12th, Coulthard second adrift in 13th, Wurz and Sato right up behind Coulthard. That's going to be quite a train back there.
This, though, is the main entertainment on offer in the early stages of this Grand Prix. Looks like the track has cleaned up now. A few traces remaining of the cement dust. And Heidfeld again slow through Chateau d'Eau, but Alonso this time not close enough to capitalise. This is where he tried his pass. Heidfeld's gone a little bit defensive, but he should be pretty safe, I think, this time round. Down on the race leaders. At the moment then, at the front, Massa still leading and trying to pull away from Raikkonen. 4 seconds is the margin. Hamilton is lapping very consistently in third place, but he's almost 6 seconds off the race leader. This is the main interest at the moment, which is the battle for 6th and 7th places between Nick Heidfeld in the BMW and Fernando Alonso, the reigning world champion in the McLaren, who started this race from 10th place on the grid. He's already made up 3 places. That's Jenson Button, who...
And it looks like McLaren who will be first to blink. Is this to get Alonso away from the gearbox of Heidfeld? But we think it's for Lewis, so bad news for McLaren. Not only are they about 8, 9 tenths slower at the moment than the Ferraris, but they're also going to be pitting first. So, in fact, it is Hamilton who pits first.
Well, this is going to take about 20 seconds out of his race. It's going to put him out somewhere around Fisichella. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Somewhere around Button and Barrichello, between the two of them, when he comes back out again. Off he goes, Lewis Hamilton. That was the front jack cameraman Lee Hart there working for McLaren. Alonso in as well. Very fast turnaround by the McLaren team.
Right, well, this confirms it then. I mean, Alonso's out of the equation. He's already a pit stop behind on the track. And Hamilton then is in damage limitation mode today. He needs a third place up on the podium. Hope Ferrari trip over something or have a fault of some kind, because Hamilton does not, it appear, have the speed to be anywhere close to the Ferraris.
And of course we'll get just an idea of how competitive the Ferraris really are when we see how late they come in for their pit stop. Hamilton made forced to retire. Alonso starting 10th on the grid after gearbox problems during qualifying, made up 3 places early on. He's still in 7th place and once again is tucked up behind the BMW of Nick Heidfeld, who he has struggled to overtake so far in this Grand Prix. And of course Heidfeld has finished in front of him earlier on in the season, if you remember. Riding on board here with the world champion, and this has been a familiar tale from the early part of the Grand Prix. It was early pit stops for the McLaren team. 2 laps later, Massa came in, and 4 laps later, Raikkonen came in, giving Raikkonen a chance briefly to lead a Grand Prix for the first time since April. But now the situation has been normalised. The only thing that's changed really is that Raikkonen has halved the gap that Massa was able to build on him in the opening stint. Massa leads by 2 seconds then. Hamilton is 8 seconds behind Raikkonen in third place. He lost ground then through the first round of pit stops. Robert Kubica in the BMW is running 4th. 5th is Jenson Button, who has yet to make a pit stop and has just set his fastest lap of the race so far in the Honda. Then it's this battle, 6th and 7th, between Heidfeld and Alonso, with Giancarlo Fisichella, whom Alonso has recently passed in 8th.
Alonso on those harder tyres now after his first stop. Button is going extremely well. He's quick as well as up there in 5th. Obviously, as you say, out of position with pit stops, but Alonso, remember, he actually passed this car in front of him once earlier in the Grand Prix and then made a mistake and he went back through. Heidfeld went back through, and how much has that damaged his afternoon? He's now 32 seconds away from the leaders, Fernando Alonso.
Remember the scrap these two had in Bahrain as well. Heidfeld getting in front of Alonso and overtaking him on the racetrack. Absolutely fantastic pass he made. So there's been plenty of racing already this season between these two men. They know each other's strengths and weaknesses.
One of the strengths of Alonso is normally out of the Chateau d'Eau corner down into Lycée braking zone, but nowhere near close enough. Looking back down the field, Rosberg's 9th, not lapping very quickly at the moment either. Barrichello 10th, 4 seconds behind him, with a big queue of cars behind Barrichello. Ralf Schumacher 11th, Webber 12th for Red Bull. 13th, just behind is Coulthard for Red Bull. Wirtz all over the back of Coulthard too. as Alonso gets ever nearer and then gets a big swapper on in the middle in the dirty ear of that BMW. So Alonso just cannot keep it together in the middle of 3, but still he's looking like a half a chance. He's trying to go around the outside. He'll have to double back underneath, and Heidfeld absolutely claimed the apex of the corner and nowhere for Alonso to go.
It's interesting, he carried lots of speed into turn 3, but then he got his front wheel on the curb on the inside and it seemed to lose grip or take it away from him. He just lost momentum there. He's done that before. He's trying very hard. He's certainly driving in a very ragged fashion, Fernando Alonso. It's wonderful to watch. Very aggressive. He's certainly not lost any of his fight.
Yeah, Alonso's worked out that taking his quicker line into 180 is hurting him because he's then slower out, and so he started to follow the line. Well, he certainly did on that lap anyway, follow the line of the BMW. I don't know why Heidfeld lost so much here, really. He sort of went defensive, he was probably watching Alonso too much, and Alonso really actually outbraked himself around the outside, didn't he? There we go. Hit the brake about 80 metres before the hairpin, and it's quite wide up there, not too slippery, so you can get away with it. Very fair driving from both drivers, and Heidfeld always giving a car's width.
And on it continues. Lap 29 now. Approaching the halfway stage in this Grand Prix. Into the pits comes Alex Wurz in the Williams from 13th place. Still quite a few cars yet to make a stop here. And we're, as I say, almost halfway through this race. Jenson Button in the much improved Honda is running 5th. He'll obviously drop back a bit, but if he's going to do a one-stopper here this afternoon, he could be on for a decent result, Jenson Button. Certainly the changes that they've made to this car, a lot of errors.
ASAP.
It's quite a dangerous moment. It's a dangerous place to work, the pit lane. The GP2 race yesterday, one of the drivers hit a mechanic who was waiting to change the front tyre, lifted him right off his feet. Luckily the mechanic is okay, I'm delighted to tell you, but it is a very, very dangerous place to work. Curious incident then for the Spiker team. Here comes Alonso. This is where he's fast, but he loses momentum when he gets up onto that curve. He hasn't done it this time. Can he get a toe on Heidfeld? He's a bit far behind at the moment. There's Kubica going through in 4th place. And there's Kovalainen just getting out of the way of Button.
Interesting that Alonso didn't choose to follow the BMW all the way down the straight. Wonder if he's needing some cooler air again in that McLaren. There's a gearbox bearing failure yesterday that cost him on the grid. So they had a lot of work to do on that. And I'm sure they'll have their fingers crossed that whatever happened to Alonso's gearbox, they've managed to fix for good through the Grand Prix.
Here's Jenson Button then, looking forward to a warm reception next weekend at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. One of 4 drivers from the UK who will be turning up at Silverstone next week. Obviously Lewis Hamilton likely to be leading the World Championship when we get to Silverstone, but I tell you what, Martin, on the evidence of what we're seeing here today, Lewis is going to have his work cut out in his home Grand Prix against Ferrari. They are looking very, very strong, the 2 Ferraris, and particularly Kimi Räikkönen at the moment, who's just taken half a second out of the lead of Felipe Massa. Räikkönen then starting to really go on the attack.
Yeah, well, we'll wait and see. This is a totally different track to, say, Montreal and Indianapolis 2-3 weeks ago and Silverstone next weekend. Is it just that the Ferraris are really working on this super smooth racetrack? If we throw a few bumps in like Silverstone has, and Alonso there super late on the brakes, and he nearly had to take to the escape road. What was that about?
It's like bothering a salmon, this, isn't it? He's trying to get it to sort of to bite, and Heidfeld's just trying to keep a cool head while Alonso hurls a McLaren at him from all angles and tries to put him off his game, going offline, trying everything he can.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. He's now taking the BMW line so they can stay with it on the exit and to try to trouble Heidfeld through 2 corners where he's much quicker, this being Chateau d'Eau. If he can keep it neat and tidy here, he'll have a better chance. Leapt off the curb, which triggers the traction control more than normal, and that's why the BMW pulled away. Louise has some news on Spiker.
Can you tell us exactly what happened there?
Yeah, it looks like that we had a bit of a mix-up with the pit stop, so we had both cars in at the same time. We got Adrian away without a problem. We were then refueling Christian's car, and he set off. It looks like he set off before we'd completed, which meant that the fuel hose was still attached. Fortunately, nobody was hurt, nobody was injured. We got a few of the guys.
But the news here is that Felipe Massa has had a not particularly quick lap that last lap as Alonso tries once again at Heidfeld. Raikkonen's closed in on him, but Hamilton is catching the pair of them. He's faster than the Ferraris at the moment by almost half a second a lap as Alonso goes down the side of Heidfeld, and that's not normally a passing place, but it is if your name is Fernando Alonso. Supreme aggression, and what a place to do it. He flew off the racetrack there twice during the free practice session. It seemed to be a corner he wasn't particularly comfortable with, but what enormous courage from Fernando Alonso.
Enormous something or other. Anyway, probably two of them, I suspect, because that is super breath. That's a difficult corner by yourself, let alone when you're trying to overtake somebody. And again, Heidfeld coping with it well. Alonso just found some straight line speed, picked up the slipstream, positioned himself on the turn in. Heidfeld saw it coming, took the escape road, and Alonso kept it on the road. Here it is. Right, I want to watch this from behind a pillow. That's amazing that he got through there. And on line 2. Now he can get on with it.
That was all about the speed that he got out of that turn 8. He's taken a different line through there all the time from Heidfeld. Clearly this time his exit from it was perfect. He had the extra speed and he was able to dive through. Massa then is in the lead. He's coming through to complete another lap. Raikkonen, you can see, is right with him, and Hamilton is closing down the pair of them. It's almost halfway here in the French Grand Prix.